I'm Mary Byers, and this is Associations Today. My guest is my nerdy best friend, and yours too. Beth Ziesenis is Chief Nerd Officer and founder of Your Nerdy Best Friend. Beth spends a lot of time finding low or no cost apps to help association executives be successful. But before we get into productivity and specific apps, Beth, why don't you start by talking a little bit about how association executives can deal with information overload?
Mary, I think I've heard you say before that people aren't necessarily looking for more content. They're looking for ways to make sense of the content. And I think we're not even having enough time to make sense of content and really do work. So believe it or not, my best little tool for that is a technique and not even an app necessarily. It's called the Pomodoro technique. And it was made by this little Italian guy. Well, I don't know how big he was. And he had this kitchen timer. And it was shaped like a tomato, and that's where Pomodoro comes from, apparently. And he would set it for like 15 minutes or 20 or 25 minutes and do one task during that time. Phone would ring, wouldn't answer it. An email would come in, wouldn't do it. One task. And that allowed him to get real chunks of work done. And then after the end of that, he would take 5 or so minutes to pick up some of the other things, and then he would start another. And I think association executives can really use those things to block out some of the stuff and really make progress helping their members and moving the association forward.
So focus is an important piece of what we're doing. But let's talk to, because this is your area of specialty, how about some tips, techniques, or applications that are helpful when it comes to being more effective with email and some of the other things we do on a daily basis?
The best thing that has ever happened to our work lives is that we can get email on the go. The worst thing that has ever happened to our work lives is that we can get email on the go, and it follows us around. And I guess I'm probably pretty typical where I just look at my phone and I just sigh, because it's not like I can do a lot about everything on there. It just piles up until I can sit down and do it. So one of the things I like are these number of email apps out there that let you do email triage. Some of you guys may have heard of Tinder. It's a dating app where you can kind of judge people right and left about whether you would want to date them, and you swipe to get the activity. Same thing is happening with these email triage. You swipe one way to archive it. You swipe another way to send it back to yourself in 2 hours. You swipe another way to do this, to that, to the other thing, and it makes it. It gives you the ability to just kind of go through everything really quickly and organize it so that when you do sit down and have some time to write people back and do those things, you kind of don't have to get through the slog. You can focus on what you've already gone through.
So give us the name of an app or two we should look for that would help us with that.
So my new favorite one is the Outlook app. Microsoft has been a dog the last few years. Like everybody's like, oh, Microsoft, so 2005. I swear to gosh, you should give it another look. It's crazy the changes they are making to be more inclusive and to be in everybody's world. Outlook app is free. Not only does it have that triage, but it also has the calendar inside that app so that you don't have to go out. Somebody writes you and says, hey, can we meet Tuesday? You go out of your phone, you go into the calendar, then the doorbell rings and the dog barks and you forget like what day they said and you go back in and you go back out. Well, Outlook has them right there. Plus, it's free and you can bring in all your emails into there rather than just having to have an Outlook infrastructure. It's one
Wow.
of my favorites these days.
Great, good. How about productivity apps that you can't live without, or other apps that are on your can't live without list?
Well, related to the email situation is an app that I haven't talked about a whole bunch left yet. It's a system more than an app, and it's called Slack. And what Slack is really an email killer for a group because it's more of a chat situation where you're having conversations with people rather than email is just this giant shift. It goes to this person, it goes back. It goes to this person. Whereas Slack is more of a conversation. You can still send tasks back and forth. You can send files back and forth. But it's just a a conversation you would have with somebody in an office rather than this giant shift of a product back and forth on which you have to keep all your information. So that's one of my favorites. It's got a free version, and it's something that's up and coming that is really very interesting and should be very interesting for association offices to cut down on that mess.
So everybody gets a copy of the app. Everybody has an account on the app, but then it allows you to communicate really in kind of a new and different way.
Right, right. And it's
Right.
more of a back and forth. Now, my assistant and I use the same kind of thing with Apple iMessages,
Okay.
but it's only the two of us who are going back and forth. So we can share things and do things quickly on our computers as well as our devices, and it's the same kind of concept. And it's changed the way I don't have 97 emails from my assistant. I have 9, and then a whole bunch of text messages where we're just kind of solving problems back and forth. Same
But
kind
there,
of concept, but this is like for a bigger group.
got it. Okay, good. How about another one that you just love and can't live without?
If you're not using Tripit to organize your productivity there and to keep organized on the road, I don't know what you're doing, because Tripit, these days, I can't imagine my life without Tripit. What Tripit does is allows you to forward all of those confirmations that you get for airlines, for cars, for everything, to an email called plans@tripit.com, and it organizes it. So I'm going to Detroit. I don't know when this will air, but this is when we're recording it. I'm going to Detroit for the ASAE annual conference, and when I open up my phone, I'm going to have my flight. I'm going to have my uh, hotel. I've already put in the sessions that I will be speaking at. I've put in appointments. I've put in the foundation dinner. And all I have to do is flip through them in these card situations that are so popular right now. But you can get it from everywhere. They have a free version. I pay the upgrade because I'm on the road crazy. And both are just well worth it.
Okay, great, good. I have your book here, Nerd Know-How, the best 27 apps for work and how to use them. But I've also got something else that you've done recently that I think is very interesting, and that is a card version of the book. And so let's talk a little bit about how associations can adapt the fact that you've actually got two different platforms or two different ways to deliver information. What I love about the cards is that I can easily slip them into a briefcase or a purse, easily travel with me. They're short, sweet, and to the point. And so I have two ways to access the information, but tell us a little bit about your thinking behind that and how associations can adapt that idea.
Cards are in. Like I talked about with Tripit, you're flipping through cards. The reason cards are in electronic format is because of our phones, because they're made for that size. And the alternative to cards are these long scrolling pages, and it's harder to find information. So cards, where it flips, you've got this little thing, maybe you flip and then scroll a little bit for more information, but it's all right there. The concept behind these cards, and I've been trying them out so much, I can't tell you how exciting it is that people get to touch stuff again and process that information. I can't, these days, I don't even have a to-do list online, because every time I get online, squirrel, off. There's so many things going on online. So I physically have a list. Having something physical where you're not pushing them always to a phone or to a device, but you're pushing them to something that they can concentrate on for a couple minutes, I think that's a really good concept. And having those snippets of information, you could use like membership benefits in a card deck. You could do volunteer opportunities in a card deck. You could do the tenets of your association. You could do your certification, the concepts behind all the things in your certification in a card deck. All these different things, and then give them a physical touching thing to help them process. It's a different learning style. As we all know, there are all kinds of things, but giving people things back rather than having everything electronic is something I think that's catching people's eyes.
Well, what I think is interesting about that is it's not just technology only or the old-fashioned paper or printed, but it's an and. We're opening up the horizons. We have it online and we have it in a printed publication, or we have face-to-face meetings, and we have our virtual learning. And so really it just broadens the opportunities for us to share information with our members or those we come in contact with. Beth, thanks so much for being here today. It's been my privilege and pleasure to have you here. This is Mary Byers with Associations Today. I'd like to thank my producer, Partners. If you're looking for an online learning provider, I suggest you contact them at compartners.com.